A few months ago, I made this hammer shot. It was a project to kind of showcase the blaster parts metal internal kit that they make for the hammer shot, and I thought it turned out really, really well. It's still one of my favorite paint jobs because I thought it turned out nicely. One of my viewers bought the hammer shot and recently emailed me asking if I could take a slightly modified Rapid Strike pistol that he had made and color match it to the hammer shot and give it a little bit of an overhaul. And this is what I came up with. So what he sent to me was a Rapid Strike in stock colors that he had already cut down. He cut down the front up here, and this plate is his work, as well as this muzzle spacer. And he had also cut down the back and put a, I think a polycarb plate back here, but wanted me to replace it with this 3D printed stock adapter. So let's go over everything I've done to it, because there is quite a lot, and then I'll show it firing. Starting with all the stuff on the outside, he wanted me to color match this to the hammer shot, so obviously I had to use the same paint. The paints are a Duplicolor vinyl and fabric black with light gray, as well as a Duplicolor perfect match, some kind of red. It's like one shade darker than the Inferno red, but it's some red for Chrysler that gets a little bit darker when you clear coat it. So I did run into a bit of a problem when it came to transferring the design of the paint job on the hammer shot to the Rapid Strike. On the hammer shot, there are 3 obvious layers, and the Rapid Strike only has 2. So trying to get a design that's based around 3 layers onto 2 layers is a bit of a problem, and the layouts are just completely different. So it does have a bit of a different design feel to it, but I tried my best to kind of get the same amount of blacks and grays and red onto it. So if we take the stock off, on the back he wanted me to put on this 3D printed stock attachment, and I had to go in and do a little bit of putty work on there, you can see it, to fill in the gap because he cut it just a little too forward. So I had to go in there and fill that up around the stock attachment. I used some lube and then just kind of shoved epoxy putty in there and then ground it to round it out around there. Now because he did cut the Rapid Strike a little too forward, the stock attachment piece was very, very loose and wouldn't work if you had just left it in there with the pressure of the shell holding it in. So that's why I added 3 bolts to each side. I just drilled it right into both the shell and the 3D piece, so it has a little bit more hold to it. It does wobble a little bit, but it's much, much better and much more secure than how it was originally. And attached to it, he wanted me to color match this Stockade stock, and I think I did a pretty nice job of that. I think this has the best balance of colors overall in the whole build, but that's just my opinion. On the right here, you can see the battery tray that he's using to hold 3 IMRs and 1 dummy battery to run the entire Rapid Strike off of. And I added 2 little lines to it because I kind of wanted to break it up a little bit. Now, I originally thought that they would be going up and down, but I think the side to side is just fine, and it kind of breaks up the monotony of that red nicely, so I think that was a nice touch on my part. And on the left side, we have a voltmeter that turns on when you open up the jam door. I just wired it up to a little switch in there, and it connects directly to where the wires come out of the battery case, so you're getting a nice feed directly from here. The voltmeter is protected by a little piece of polycarb that's spaced up from the shell using some 440 bolts and nuts, and I actually had to slice down a little bit of the sides, one of the sides of the nuts, so the voltmeter could raise up just a little bit off the shell so it wasn't sunken into the magwell too much to hinder any sort of performance. But that's just basically to protect it, because no one wants a scratched up voltmeter that you can't really read anymore. So it needed a little bit of protection, and I think the polycarb piece just kind of looks nice on its own. So that's what I did there. And the last little external piece is this extended mag release that I painted red. I love these things and I can talk about them for days. But yeah, that's all the external stuff. Not too bad. Just a bunch of taping and a bunch of kind of small touch-ups to make everything look nice. But there you go. Now on the inside of this Rapid Strike, I may have gone a little bit overboard on how much I overhauled it, especially for something that runs on just 3 IMRs, but I'd rather overhaul it well than cut corners and leave a bunch of stock mess in there. So on the inside, we have a Blastersmiths UK 3D printed switch platform that I've put some Omron SS 110 switches on. They're 10 amp rated switches, which is more than enough for IMRs. I have all 3 of them in there, so you get really good single fire control. Connecting everything together is some 18 gauge silicone wiring, and for the voltmeter I used some 20 gauge silicone wiring just to kind of save space. And to connect the voltmeter to both sides of the shell, to go from the battery to the voltmeter itself, I've used an XT30 connector just because it's small and it doesn't take up too much space. Running the entire Rapid Strike, I have 3 Ranson motors. These are tiny little 130 powerhouses that have this excellent whine to them. They do really well on 2S and they do pretty decently on a 3S, but since we're using 3 IMRs in the battery pack, I thought Banshees wouldn't hold up too well, so that's why I went with the Ransons. I had 3 of them laying around and I wanted to use them, so I threw them in there and they perform really, really nicely. I like them and I wish I could find more of them, but you can't anymore, so that's a shame. So I think I covered everything. If I didn't, I'll go back and put like a little annotation or something. But I made this Rapid Strike to be a powerhouse. It has all the internals necessary to take 3 IMRs and then some. So this thing is shooting very, very nicely. So let's take this thing outside, put it through the chronograph, and I'll show you some dart spammage with it. So let's go do that right now. As you guys can see, this Rapid Strike has some very nice spam fire to it, but it also retains a single shot control using the BSUK wiring setup and the 3 switches controlling everything. You can still have that nice 1 shot per trigger pulse. As for the chronographs, I noticed I was revving this to about a 85-90% motor wind-up speed, so that's why I was getting about 115. I would think you can get this up to about 118-120 FPS max, but 115 is perfectly fine for basically any situation, so that is no problem. So there you have it. That is the Rapid Strike SMG, Rapid Strike pistol, Rapid Strike Uzi, whatever you want to call it, that I made to match the color and overall look of the Hammershot I made a little while back. I think I did an excellent job. I think it turned out very nicely, and I'm very, very happy with the overall outcome of it. Let me know what you guys think. What do you like? What do you dislike? What would you have done differently to make it your own? Let me know in the comment section, but for now, I'm extremely happy with it and I will be shipping it out very, very soon. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and I am off to finish up another project and I hope you have a great day wherever you are.